nervous because I'm here now.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell, and in this episode, we will be previewing the upcoming game, the Thanksgiving holiday game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Much anticipated game, an important game, certainly for the Ravens, not so important for the Steelers, who are still undefeated, but certainly an important one for the Ravens. Big win. They're coming off of a two-game they're currently riding a two-game losing streak. So certainly need to right this ship. But yeah, let's get right into it. Let's provide some. I think we should start with health. Is that a good place to start? All right,
it sounds
let us know
great
what's
to
going
me.
on. Cool.
Yeah, so of course all the attention has been on the Ravens with Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins going out due to COVID. They've already been ruled out because of they tested positive for the virus. So whether the game was on Thursday or Sunday, they were going to be out. But with there being a short turnaround, of course, the margin of error and the concern for other players is heightened. But as of right now, Brandon Williams has been put on the list as far as contact tracing goes. No other players have been put on the list. So it's a good sign. Physical injuries instead of like viral ailments is how we'll put it. Calais Campbell, of course, is still out. He didn't practice, and we're hoping that he makes a return this week.
Yeah,
we'll see if he does. But he didn't practice on Monday. Jimmy Smith also didn't practice on Monday. Still that ankle injury. It's concerning because this is the third week in a row where it seems like Jimmy is just playing on game day and like maybe doing walkthroughs on Friday. He is a vet, but it does concern me a little bit that he's not able to.
Didn't he miss 2 games ago?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he didn't practice all week, then missed the game, didn't practice all the following week, made the game, and now it looks like this will be the third week where he's not practicing during the week. I mean, he'll probably play, but still a concern. Definitely banged up. Mark Andrews has a thigh. He was limited. And then, of course, Matthew Judon was limited with an ankle. And back at practice, our guard, Tyree Phillips, we're getting reinforcements back on the line. He can't, he's recovering from that ankle, but he was limited in practice. It'll be interesting to see, based on the shifts they've made on offensive line, if they try and, put him out of tackle, if they, leave him off the starting five, they throw him back in at guard. We'll get into that. Or if he even plays at this point, but if he's limited on Monday, sounds like it's pretty good that he's going to play. Now, I want to get into the Steelers side of things because honestly, their laundry list is a bit more hefty. So Juju Smith-Schuster, we talked about this in our last episode with Chris Carter from the Steelers media, and he had that freak injury. It looks like he's got it's a foot, and he slipped on the flag or something like that.
Yeah.
Really weird, but he's definitely. I mean, it looks like he's not playing. He did not practice at all. Joe Hayden's dealing with a knee, did not practice. Trey Edmonds, hamstring, same thing, did not practice. Jalen Samuels, quad, did not practice. The list goes on. Jaron Elliott, Marquise Pouncey did not practice. Now, his was not injury related, so that was just a vet day, actually. Most of the offensive line, just a vet day.
Yeah.
But another one that's important that Chris also brought up was Zach Gentry, their third tight end. Vance McDonald is just coming back from COVID, which is good. But we've seen players need time to ramp up coming back off COVID. You remember it took Cam a little bit of time to get back in rhythm. And so all the other guys that missed, not injury related, but there are some big names they have on there as well. I think, they're going through it just like we are.
Yeah, no doubt. But good thing for the Steelers is if Juju is forced to miss, they have a lot of receivers, Jimmy. They can get the ball, get the job done, and they like to spread that ball around. So even if they were forced to play without Juju, it's not like they have nobody else there. I mean, they have Chase Claypool, the rookie, who's I believe has 10 or 11 touchdowns.
10 touchdowns.
Insane. Obviously, Deontay Johnson is shifty. He does a lot with the ball in his hands. He's got 49 catches on the season. James Washington has 21 catches. Eric Ebron, who's still there, has 35, including 4 touchdowns. So they still have plenty of weapons to get the ball out to. But yeah, losing Juju would be a blow to them, no doubt about it. He's played in every game, so he's a guy I'm sure has built a wonderful chemistry with Big Ben, and that would be somewhat of a concern for them if he's not able to go. But let's get into some of the statistics for these.
And before you do that really quick, Glenn, one of the things I just want to say really quick, gotta get off my chest, not going to spend a lot of time on this. Every game I watch that's not the Ravens game, every game at this point, I'm so jealous of every team's wide receiver core. You're talking about the weapons that the Steelers have. I'm struggling with the inability we have to surround Lamar Jackson. I mean, I'm watching the Rams Bucks game. Of course, the Bucks, he has an absolute surplus. I mean, it's insane the weapons that he has to throw the ball to. But then look at the Rams side. You got a guy like Cooper Kupp, who we could have gotten. You got a guy like Robert Woods, who we could have gotten in the draft. Just think about how incredible, how much better we would be with just a guy like Robert Woods, who's consistently underrated, who's not deemed a number one guy. He would be our alpha day one.
Yeah, I mean, well, we let's be honest. We knew that this receiving core wasn't great when the season started. We went around the AFC North ranking each position, and this was a distant fourth in our mind when it comes to wide receiver core. So, yeah, but look, there's not. They went out and grabbed maybe the one guy that was left out there, and that's Des Bryant, that had some ability. So they're gonna have to do it with who they got, and hopefully in the offseason look to improve the position. But
yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Let's get into some team stats for the Steelers. Let's see. They have thrown for 2,456 yards on the season, which ranks 18th in the league. Big Ben has 24 touchdowns to 5 picks, so that's phenomenal touchdown interception ratio. On the ground, they've ran for 1,022 yards, which is 21st in the league, so not great on the ground. They clearly like to get the ball down the field. I guess they really both ways. I mean, they will run the ball, but definitely lean more on the pass. As far as defensively, they've given up 2,035 yards through the air, which is third in the league, and rushing, giving up just 1,034 yards, which ranks 7th in the league. But what is interesting is that they're first against rushing touchdowns, surrendering just 5 rushing touchdowns all season, Jimmy. So they are absolutely phenomenal. As far as the Ravens go, breaking down some of their stats, they have thrown for 1,834 yards, which is 31st in the league. So still not great in that area. Rushing the ball, they've ran for 1,605 yards, which is still number 1 in the National Football League. And they've had 11 touchdowns on the ground, whereas Lamar through the air has 15 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Man, 7 interceptions. Already surpassed his total from last season. Not great. As far as defensively, the Ravens have given up 2,170 yards, which is 7th, and given up 1,160 on the ground, which ranks 16th. So still pretty good defensively. They definitely got some areas to improve in the passing game, but getting it done on the ground offensively still to this point. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. No real surprises, I don't think, in there now that we're this far into the season. But certainly, hopefully, the Ravens can be more competent in the passing game, I guess is what
definitely
efficient.
More efficient.
I think.
Yeah,
I think efficient is the best word, because we're never going to be a 350 air it out type team. It's just not our formula. But yeah, the efficiency we'd like to see go up. So since we talked about health and stats, kind of laid the table here to continue to do so before we get into some talking points this game, offensive and defensive questions and concerns. Let's talk about where we are right now. It's pretty crazy to think about that we are now 3rd in the division, the AFC North. We are 6-4, and the Browns are 7-3, and then of course the Steelers are 10-0. So we sit right now outside of the playoffs looking in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And we have the Browns in front of us, and apparently the Dolphins in front of us. So look, the Dolphins have the same record. There's some tiebreaker things that are going on there, and other, secondary measures that they use that they've placed them in front of us. Of course, in our own division, the Browns are 7-3. So it's going to be a tight race till the end.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say the ball is still in our court. I think if we end the season, if we win out, I think we still get in. I feel pretty confident about that, but it's going to be a tight one till the end.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, certainly if they win out, yeah, that would be nice. I think they definitely have some tough ones up, including this next one. But yeah, if they were able to somehow win it out, they would definitely make the playoffs at 12-4. But
Yeah.
what I find, it's just a log jam ahead of us. But you take out the division leaders, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Colts, and the Bills, and then what you're left with is, as far as teams ahead of us, is the Browns and the Titans currently occupying that spot, and the Ravens are right now, if you look at the playoff picture, I believe one game outside. So, but look, there's the good news is that, the Browns are still on the schedule ahead of us. So as long as they win that game, that would be a big boost. The Browns have some tough matchups going forward. So I still think they're in a good position, but obviously they need to start
And
getting
they have
some
Baker
wins.
Mayfield under center.
And that
That's
does
always a good
not
thing.
help. But, they certainly are another team that needs to rely on their run game. But yeah, let's start getting into some of these questions and concerns that we have. And I'm going to start with the leader of our football team, Lamar Jackson. I found it interesting. He said that in his post-game interview that it felt like almost like the Titans wanted it more. And when they asked John about that later, he said, well, I think if you asked Lamar about that today, maybe he was just trying to find a reason or trying to give an answer. And maybe that's a little bit overplayed. But what are your thoughts when you hear Lamar saying that he felt like the Titans wanted it more down the stretch?
Yeah, for me, I don't buy into it. I think I agree with John on this one, where you come out of a game, you hop in the showers, you have your post game talk as a team, you're exhausted, and then you're put up in front of a podium. That's a tough spot to be in. Like, I haven't gotten food in me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I haven't had time to sit down and watch any tape. It's just so raw. And, you're so physically exhausted, emotionally and mentally exhausted, that I think of it as a way to, it's just coach speech to not get out of media duties, but like just to get through the interview, right?
Yeah.
Like, just pulling on strings just to get through it. I agree with that there. I don't know if I put too much stock behind that. And a lot of it has to do with, like, Lamar is he's not like, when other guys get up there behind the podium, you look at nuance and stuff like that. Lamar's not a nuanced guy when it comes to speaking to the media. It's just not something that he does. And so I don't know. I don't put a ton of stock in it. What about you?
Well, I do. I don't worry about it if it was just like in itself. Like, I don't worry about just this, but I start to worry that his confidence is waning when you combine it with all the other things. The comments he made about the defense guessing the plays, so I just start to worry that, is this just a show that Lamar is starting to lose that incredible confidence he has, and we know the importance of any player, and certainly a player like Lamar, to play with confidence. So I am a little concerned, but I do agree in the fact that he probably just heard that, that term a lot. We hear it a lot. Guys wanted it more, this, that, and the other. But no, as far as effort goes, I feel like the Ravens played very hard. They were bested. I don't think it was an effort issue. I don't think it was anything like that. I think the guys played like they wanted it. They just didn't play well enough to win. So, but I do worry that this may be a sign that Lamar's confidence is starting to shake. And I hope I'm wrong about that. But the big news is in this game, obviously, is the positive tests coming out of the backfield for the Ravens, with Dobbins and Ingram being forced to miss this game and quarantine for 10 days. So it looks like Gus is going to get a huge helping of the football this Thanksgiving. And we're obviously going to see some Justice Hill in the backfield as well, with him being the only other healthy back in the building. So, Jimmy, Gus traditionally had pretty good games against the Steelers. Now he's going to have to. What's your expectations for Gus, and how much will we see of Justice Hill in the backfield?
Yeah, so for all of you who didn't watch the last one with Chris Carter, as I mentioned, make sure to go check it out. But one of the things, Chris, I hope you're watching, because this is for you, my man. One of the things he said is that Michael Tomlin says we don't fear players, we respect players. And that's fine. I get it. But you're going to learn to fear number 35 on Sunday. Gus has done nothing but shred the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yep. I mean, think about last year, what he did. And people can say it was a throwaway game. They still had a path to get in the playoffs. They were still playing for something. Think about the last game where I think he ran for more than 5.5 a pop for over, I think, 85 yards. And he had like 87 or something like that. With Dobbins going off for over 100, Gus still had a good game. Mm-hmm. And his efficiency is insane against the Steelers. And I don't see it stopping. I think that Gus is going to do his job, do it well. So they're going to get a heavy dose of Gus Edwards. I think he's going to ball out. My expectations are very high for Gus in this game. If he lets me down, I'm going to be extremely saddened. But they're going to fear number 35 coming out of the backfield, getting hit in the face by him by the second half. So it will go from healthy respect to fear. Now, as far as Justice Hill goes, I've been actually happy with Justice in his special teams game. He looks, is this weird to say? He looks quick. He looks strong. Like finally looks like that guy. Now it's a very small sample size, only special teams, but he looks more like that guy that we've been wanting to see. Totally different game when you give him the ball in the backfield. But I am hopefully optimistic. I think this could be not an advantage in the long term, but in this game and in the vacuum that is this game, it could be an advantage that they haven't seen a lot of Justice. Throw their timing off. Not sure what he's going to do, how we're going to use him. Like I said, just in this game specifically, it could be an advantage. So what I want to know though, what do you think about? Am I bullish on Gus? Should I be more reserved? Should I be more conservative? And what about Justice?
No, I think that I have zero doubt in Gus's abilities in this game. I'm supremely confident in Gus being our bell cow. I have no worries about him whatsoever. The only concern I have is if he were to go down for an injury or some sort, and Justice is then thrust into a more prominent role, then I have concerns. I think it's, now when you look at the beginning of the season, when the Ravens decided to keep 4 backs, it was kind of like, really, do we need to overload that position and go short somewhere else? Well, in a game like this, wow, it's really nice to have Justice Hill still there. Now, you mentioned his quickness and stuff. But you're seeing that quickness tackling. You're seeing him as a gunner.
And the physicality, you know what I mean? Like
he's getting up, he's hyped. He's we still haven't seen him much with the ball in his hand. Very, very seldom. I mean, I think he had 1 touch or so last week, but not a ton. So, but the good news is we don't have to worry about Gus getting yanked when he's getting into a rhythm. I mean, I think I saw Zrebeck tweeted after this past game that, after Dobbins had a long run, boom, there we see him on the sideline, and he looked visibly unhappy about being on the sideline after a long run. So, Gus doesn't have to worry about that. I mean, I seriously doubt he's going to be giving up a ton of carries to Justice Hill. I think Justice will be there as in a relief role and maybe in a pass catching role, but I don't think Gus has to worry about him taking, goal line carries, first or second down carries from him in any way. So, in that sense, it could be a benefit to Gus. I mean, I would not be shocked at all to see Gus go for 120 to 130 at all.
Yeah, I think some guys, it maybe depends on the back, and maybe this is just us outside looking in, but I think of like a pitcher. Yeah, think about that World Series game. They took him out for analytics, right? But he was rolling, right? And he was visibly upset about it. Sometimes analytics are one thing and rest is another thing, but momentum is this unquantifiable but very tangible thing, right? Absolutely. Like momentum is real. And sometimes
some days you just have it more than others. I mean,
exactly.
I was riding, I like to go bike riding now with my wife. And one day, recently, I just, for whatever reason, just could not keep a pace. I mean, felt like everything was a struggle. And I'm sure, high level athletes go through this as well. So, and there's also good days where it's just, man, I feel good today. I feel like I could just run through a wall.
Yeah, light, springy, all that stuff. Absolutely.
So I think Gus is gonna show out this game, no doubt about that. Now, moving on to the receiving core, I liked what I saw from Dez last week. I liked that the Ravens were using him in a multitude of ways, taking advantage of his run after catch ability. He's a horse to bring down. I want to see more of that. What were your thoughts seeing, and not just him, but also James Prochet made an appearance and got a catch. A nice little play. What are your thoughts of spreading the ball around to those guys, and maybe they need to give less targets to Marquise instead of more?
Yeah, no, I know this sounds crazy, but I think that by doing this, it helps Marquise out. So let me explain myself. I think that the way that we use Marquise is twofold. So one, I agree with you that I loved seeing Dez out there playing physical, getting under Malcolm Butler's skin because he was bigger and stronger and gonna, get up under his pads. Like that's just what he was doing. He wasn't gonna run out of bounds. He wasn't gonna go down. He was gonna hit him in the face. And I like that out of Dez because he's using his advantages. I like seeing Prochet make a big catch in a big moment. And I think that if we can properly spread the ball around, it does make our passing plays less predictable. Because what teams will do is to say, okay, Marquise, okay, Mark Andrews, all right, let's do everything we can to put these guys on lock within reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we aren't really worried about the other guys. But if the other guys become opposing threats, then that's an issue for the other team, because, that game plan starts to crumble. So the more we spread the ball around, I think the more it's going to benefit Hollywood, because he's going to get less attention because they can't keep doing the same thing. So I hope that it does, and I like it. I think that this is a big deal, and this is my only hope that we can make a turnaround in the passing game this season, as far as the turnout and the performance of our wide receiver core, is that Lamar, I know he wants to get his buddy involved. I know that they're close friends, but he has to hit who's open. Mm-hmm. Don't overcomplicate it. Just read and react. Forget about who the guy is. You know what I mean? Like, just make the play that's there. The greatest of all time is the greatest of all time at that. Tom Brady will lull you to sleep. Now, he didn't have a great standing game last night, but Tom Brady's undisputed the best quarterback of all time, and he is extremely methodical in his approach, and he'll take what's there all day. And then, of course, it opens up shots to other players. So I like it. I like it a lot. But what's your take on that, on the spreading of the wealth and the moving the ball around?
I think it's important. I think when you look at other teams that are successful through the air, and I look at just the team right on the other sideline, the Steelers, they have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, that have more than 20 receptions this year. We have 3. So I think it's important that you spread the ball around. Now, I think that each team is going to have their top 2 target getters. I mean, I think if we looked at Kansas City, we'd see Hill and Kelsey, and you can go around the league and Metcalf and Lockett, I'm sure, the leaders, but you got to have more than 2 or 3 guys that scare you a little bit. I mean, in Seattle, they have the David Moore who will come in and get a touchdown here.
Hey, Glenn, I got breaking news here.
What's up?
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but apparently, according to Jeff Zrebeck, the Ravens learned this morning of more positive COVID tests per sources.
Oh, great.
They haven't named names yet, but that was just 3 minutes ago. And they just shut down the facilities, and they're going 100%. They canceled media availability, and they're going 100% virtual when the primetime game against the Steelers is within 50 hours.
Oh, great. Well, that's not good.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I figured you'd want to know.
Yeah, that's so now this game is in extreme doubt. I mean, I don't know how they can prepare for a game when the entire facility. Now, I guess if the facility is to be reopened shortly, that could change. But man, that's a tough break for this game. I mean, a game. Man, we're counting on this game, Jimmy. I don't know about you, but my Thanksgiving plans look a ton different than they ever have before. It's looking like immediate family only, and I mean immediate as in household, and not even parents and stuff like that. So I was really looking forward to this game. So I hope by some miracle they can still get it in. But it's going to be interesting, even if they can get it in, who those positive tests are, and not just the tests, but now, as we've seen with Brandon Williams, the contact tracing could have a bigger ripple effect across this team. And man, it's going to be interesting because I know the NFL.
Mark Ingram is a social butterfly, so he knows how to pollinate.
Yeah, well, let's not blame Mark Ingram just yet. We don't know who.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that, like, you know what I mean? That is the case, right? Like,
right? Yeah, I mean, and I know that the NFL will do anything they can to get this game in, because that would be massive lost revenue when you consider the ratings that they would get in this game with everyone at their own house instead of all going to one house. Now we're going to have everyone at their own home with their TV on. The ratings would be probably through the roof. So I'm sure they're going to do everything they can to get the game in. But man, that's a bummer, Jimmy.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the idea that the game is not going to be played, I think that is out the window, only because mentions, this is from some media sources. They're saying that, the mentions of the coronavirus volume league wide is a concern. But what they're saying is that, quote, whether it's right or wrong, the message seems to be that the league is hell-bent on moving forward with the schedule.
Wow.
So it's interesting for sure. And today's Tuesday. Think about it. Tomorrow's really travel day, right?
Well, it's only Pittsburgh, but I don't know when they.
Right, but even still, I mean, talking.
Maybe, yeah, you're probably right.
I'm assuming it. I don't. Maybe they'll do it Thursday morning, but I wouldn't want to travel and play on the same day. I
Yeah.
definitely, even if it is a short commute, I wouldn't want to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. That was a bummer.
Well, if they are able to play, I mean, do you consider this game? Is it too early to consider this game a must-win?
No, it has to be. Well, it's not a. I guess. No, it depends on. It's not a must-win statistically, so I guess you can't consider it a must-win. Like we can still get in the playoffs even if we don't win this game. But I think it is a really have to have it because if not, you're depending on help from other teams, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, I don't think it'll necessarily mean you need help with other teams. I think if you go, what is it? If they lose this game, they would have what, 5 losses? I mean, 11-5, you're still going to get into the playoffs as a wild card, especially when they add an additional one.
yeah, I guess that's true. And it's still sickening to me that the Eagles are a 3-win team and they're going to be in the playoffs. Sickening to me.
Did you think they'll ever change that? Just briefly.
No, the NFL is going to drag their feet and put their head in the sand on everything. That's what
because
they
it keeps more teams involved if they do it this way. Like right now, the Eagles would be pretty much out of the playoff picture. The entire NFC East would be out of the playoff picture. But as we currently stand, all those markets still have a very good chance of making the playoffs. So
yeah,
I think you're right. I don't think they'll ever change that because it would make more teams lose interest faster.
Yeah, but so we'll assume this game is going, and we'll stand by to see if there's any news that comes out, and we'll be sure to tweet it, get it on our social media and things like that. And if it's a big, if it's a big name or a big group of guys, we'll be sure to throw another video up there so you guys make sure you stay posted, turn on those notifications, so that way you know. But I do want to ask you this, something that I think was interesting. Acting under the assumption that we're one going to play this game, 2 McCarry's going to be in this game, and he's not part of this close contact group or positive test. Harbs isn't ready to name him the full-time starter just yet. What's your take on that? Do you think that's just normal John doing his thing? Just trying to keep him humble and hungry. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that John said this for a while now. There's a difference between starters and guys that are just starting out of necessity. I think Bozeman was kind of on that line a lot last year before he established himself and John was able to name him a consistent starter. But yeah, McCarry just hasn't done enough, or it could just be his love and loyalty for Skura, which seems to be in abundance. So I think McCarry did a fantastic job. We didn't see the snap issues that we saw with Skura. It's not like he's a guy that doesn't have experience. This guy has playoff experience, good or bad. He's been out there for a lot of big games, and he's played well in moments and he's played poorly in moments. But I think that right now you can trust him more than you can trust Skura with not putting the ball on the ground. And as we said many times, turnovers and penalties this year have really been the big thing that have killed the Ravens in big games and big moments. The Steelers game, in every category, they dominated outside of those 2. They had 9 penalties and the 4 turnovers. And really, there could have been more because there was multiple balls on the ground that the Ravens were fortunate enough to jump on. And so, yeah, I think right now, until McCarry kind of plays poorly enough to lose the job, I think it's his job going forward. And good for Skura. I mean, look, Skura is not healthy. I mean, there's no way he's 100% healthy from that knee. And even if he's healthy, he's not strong. Like he wasn't able to strength train. So I think McCarry has to be the starter moving forward until his play is so poorly that he takes himself out of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because those snaps off to the right and over the head, but they are consistently off to the right. I'm sure you've noticed this at that point. Consistent. And McCarry, he's like throwing heaters back there, man. I mean, he's hitting Lamar in the gut. We saw obviously the play where Lamar wasn't prepared. And if that ball would have been off to the right, like Skura's were,
yep,
that would have flown past Lamar. But yeah, I mean, that's job number 1, right?
I mean, even if they jump back on it, because there was occasions where Lamar was able to jump back on it. That's a drive killer because now you just lost 12 yards on first or second down. And now, so yeah, I think that's the utmost importance. But one other guy returned to the line that I wanted to ask you about, well, at least returning to practice, possibly returning to the game, is Tyree Phillips. we saw Powers get the start last week. I thought he played okay. I didn't think he played poorly. What are your thoughts on if Tyree Phillips is able to return? Do you think he should immediately be back in the starting lineup?
That's a tough one for me, because I think consistency is key on the line, and shuffling around this late in the season can be tricky. So I'll answer it this way, like a true politician: if you truly believe that he is an upgrade from Powers, that much more, that would sacrifice the consistency of them gelling as a unit going late into the season when you need them to be humming, then you do it. But if not, then I think you got to ride with the guys you got. And keep him in a backup role as your swing tackle.
Yep.
Right, because you're going to need that anyway. He's a tackle in college, and if Fluker's out there, you upgrade at the swing tackle, because instead of bringing in Waylon, you bring in Tyree Phillips, who I'm sure the Ravens would agree is a better option than Waylon. So I say for now, the only thing I guess, and I would be based on his play, I might be more proponent of. And maybe not. I guess I wouldn't want to switch him in for Fluker. I say keep it the way it is, unless you think he's that much of an upgrade. I say you ride with the 5 you have and stay consistent. What do you think?
I think that's a good point. I think that the fact that Tyree Phillips has the tackle experience, obviously now has plenty of guard experience. Well, not plenty, but he has some guard experience now. He would be a perfect guy to be that swing guy, and with him just coming off of the IR, I don't think it's a need to rush him back. Like you said, I think Powers played well enough. I think the offensive line played well enough to win the Titans game. And so, yeah, I think it's important that Tyree Phillips be there as that reserve role in case one of the tackles were to go down or one of the guards. I think that's a good point, because Powers could not come in and play, tackle for you. You'd be terrified if he were to do so. But defensively,
I want to get your opinion on this one. I gotta ask you this one, because you were very critical, from the jump of our recap show, and rightfully so. You were very critical of Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey and their performance in that game. Like we've said this before, is that we put a lot of value and we put a lot on their plate, right, to win their matchups the majority of the time. It's the way we play defense. It allows us to do so. So how do you expect these two, Peters and Humphrey specifically, to play after such a poor performance in the Titans game?
Well, I expect them to step it up. I mean, I know that. Look, they had a tough job that was asked of them. The Ravens stacked the box to try and stop Henry, and they left those corners on islands a lot of times. But those are all pro corners that they left on island. This isn't, Shockey Brown. This isn't, some of these. This isn't Frank Walker we're talking about here. These are guys that we ask a lot of because they are very talented and they get highly paid. They're very highly compensated for the responsibility that's on their shoulders. So, when I see Corey Davis go for over 100 yards, that's unacceptable to me. When I see A.J. Brown carrying defenders into the end zone on an extremely important 3rd and long, that's unacceptable to me. I find that to be, so I can understand if a bunch of, if Jonnu Smith, who did have a touchdown, if he would have really killed us, or if maybe some of the lesser known guys really, but no, it was A.J. Brown. It was Corey Davis. It was the two guys we knew who were get the targets. They were covered by Humphrey. They were covered by Peters, and they still did their thing. They picked up big first downs. They moved the chain. So I think they have to be better. Look, the Steelers have a bunch of guys. They're going to move the ball. Even if Juju's not able to play, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, James Washington, Ray McLeod, they got guys all over, and I haven't even got to the tight ends. They got guys everywhere. So we're going to need this is going to have to be a group effort. All the corners have got to play well. Big Ben will spread the ball around to anyone. This isn't like the Titans where it's just, you look at those two big guys and you go, wow, if we can slow them down. Well, this isn't the case here, because even if you slow down Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool's got 11 touchdowns. Ray McLeod can hurt you out of the slot. This is a tough so yeah, the corners got to play like the all pros that they are. They can't go out there and have a bad showing. They just can't. And also another thing, Jimmy, we love it when Humphrey is knocking the ball out, when he's stripping players, but far too often in that game, you got to know when and who you're tackling. Okay. So if it's a crucial third down, I don't want to see you ripping at the ball because these big receivers pull you and they end up gaining an extra 3-4 yards and they pick up the first down. There was too often where Humphrey was trying to strip A.J. Brown instead of bringing him to the ground. And that's a lot of times how they were able to gain first downs and touchdowns. So knowing when and where and who you're tackling as far when you're going after those strips, I think is going to be important.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there because you said it exactly right. I don't get too upset when Marcus Peters does it because you look at the size difference between Peters and Humphrey. Humphrey is physically gifted to where he can, not that Peters doesn't need to tackle, he needs to tackle. But I can understand making a business decision. You see AJ Brown there and you're like, I can't tackle this guy. So I'm going to try and rip the ball out, which good luck with that too. He's got, huge arms as well. But at the same time, Marlon you're right. I mean, he should be wrapping up. He can get physical with any wide receiver in the NFL. And then, but I tell you what, I had my biggest issue with that was with Patrick Queen, man. You can't, I'm sorry, you're not a DB. You're not that gives you an excuse, but you need to be the physical, imposing middle linebacker that makes guys pay every time, they're encountering you, right? And like not trying to rip the ball out, dude. Hit them. So yeah, I agree with you there. Timing is really important. Secure the tackle first. And we've seen Marlon successfully do that. Secure the tackle first and then go after the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, and also knowing, look, like you said, AJ Brown is gigantic. I mean, it is hard to believe he's as young as he is. He's just a physical specimen. So, I mean, and not to say it's
you got to
impossible.
know your opponent.
Yeah. It's not impossible that they could knock the ball out, but I mean, when he's got both his arms wrapped around it, you go after the man's legs and you bring him to the ground. But
you can hardly see the ball. I mean, exactly. He's got so much arm.
Yeah, he's gigantic. So, but moving on to another guy, another part of the field that's kind of been struggling. We saw in the Titans game, Derrick Henry, especially in the second half, and then obviously in overtime, was able to run right through our defense. I mean, the loss of Brandon Williams, the loss of Calais Campbell really hurt in that game. And it looks like the Ravens are going to be forced to play without them again this week. So obviously it's not the challenge that Derrick Henry and the Titans are as far as the run game, but Connor, as was it Chris Carter mentioned, I think he said he's eighth in the AFC or eighth in the NFL in rushing yards.
Yep.
Last game, he had 15 carries for 47 yards, did have the touchdown. So they were able to really rein him in. But this is a new game. Calais was in that game. This is a whole nother story. Or how concerned are you? It's going to be important. You can't let the Steelers come in and run the ball and throw the ball. So you got to at least limit them and make them, one dimensional. How confident you are the Ravens can do that, Jimmy?
You know what? I'm confident that we can do it. I've said this before. I never really worry about guys running all over us. And when I said that, the New England Patriots ran all over us. So the only thing I can do is just dig my heels deeper in my convictions because that's what all of us do these days.
All right, fair enough.
So I'm going to say I feel confident in, one, my hopes that Calais is going to come back. If Calais comes back, I mean, you talk about reinforcements coming in. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's a run stuffer, a game wrecker. I mean, he is the definition of a game wrecker in any play, pass play, run play, screen, anything. I mean, he's going to make an impact with his batting the ball down, putting pressure on the quarterback, stacking him, stripping him, or, taking double teams like you've talked about before and throwing him around. So I feel good. I was really happy. Derek Wolfe, man, is all heart. I feel like he has been battling and making plays, and the young guys have been making some plays as well. I like to see, you talked about it, Malik Harrison is doing well. So I say all that to say that I feel good about our ability to shut them down in the run game and make them a pass-dependent team in this game.
Man, I wish I was as confident. And I'm a little concerned because I think that the way to beat the Steelers is to force them into third and long, like most teams, but certainly the Steelers, to force them into third and long, confuse Big Ben, disrupt the receivers. But if they are able to run the ball and get it into third and short, I mean, that's a lot to ask for your defense to stop them on third and short when they have the entire playbook. Obviously, Big Ben playing at a very high level, playing a real cerebral level right now. He's taking what the defense gives him. So I think forcing them to third and long is going to be key. And I guess the big thing for me is if the Ravens are able to get a first half lead, then I don't see this being an issue. But if this is a close game, or the Steelers are able to have a small lead, then you got a big problem because I think the Ravens were good in the first half against Tennessee, even without those guys. Even with Brandon Williams and Calais being out, I think they were good, but it wore them down as the game went on. The second half and obviously overtime, they were dominant on the ground. So I think the key will be how the game goes. I think that obviously the Ravens are able to get a big lead or able to even a small lead. I think that'll go a long way in limiting the amount of attempts that James Conner gets. And obviously, the lower attempts, the less chance he has to pop a long one, which can be demoralizing. So I think the big thing will be how does the game going? Because I'm very confident in the first half, but not as confident in the second half that the Ravens can continue to stop the run. So yeah, I think game situation will be a big part into how the Ravens are able to do that.
Now, what about, you talked about this? I think it's interesting. I'm kind of going off the beaten path here, but you mentioned the way that they were dominant in the run game in the second half, and then obviously in overtime, the end of that game, essentially. Do you think the Ravens learned anything from that? Where like at a certain point, it's about volume. You're gonna pop one, right? And so, do you think that they learned anything from that with sticking to the run game? And they're gonna, because I really think, look, Gus is not Derrick Henry, but Gus absolutely has the ability to wear a team down.
Yeah.
We've seen it from him from literally his first start with the Ravens. Gus will wear you down. Do you think that the Ravens are taking that into consideration? And do you think they learned anything from the Tennessee game?
Man, I hope so. I mean, I really do because we talked about Tennessee and their stubbornness to the run attack all season, and it makes me envious because
Yeah.
as Derrick Henry said, it was tough sledding. He said it after the game. It was tough sledding for the first half, but then he could feel it. He could feel that they were kind of imposing their will. Yeah, he said, I quote, you could just kind of tell as that game went into the fourth quarter, I think we were wearing on them offensively. It was tough sledding there early. Give them a lot of credit. It's a really good team, great players, well coached. But you could tell going in the fourth quarter, the way we scored and getting the ball in overtime after the 3 and out, you could just tell that by the Ravens' body language on the sideline and also on the field, I felt like we were going to be able to break through. I didn't know what that was going to look like, but yeah. So I mean, yeah, he said it. Derrick Henry said it. They were great in the first half, but they wore you down. And I think that, you said that did the Ravens learn anything? I don't think you really can. I don't think there's anything you can really learn other than, yeah, we're going to get tired. Like we're going to get beat up. I mean, that's just how a game
What I
goes.
mean is like offensively. Like,
Oh,
do
I
you think
see. Maybe
we
they learned something from the Titans. I
right,
certainly
like, or
hope
just
so.
were reminded of it? Like, hey, we need to do this too from a volume perspective, right? Like you said before, Henry had more carries, 5 more carries, I think, than all of 3 of our backs combined that got carries in that game.
I think it was
Now
8
they
more.
don't. Now, of course, Lamar is a running quarterback, and so that does take away from it a little bit. But even with Lamar running, however many times he ran, I still want us to have more carries in our backfield than the opposing team. It just makes the
Yeah.
most sense for us. So I'm hoping that, think about it, we played New England, ran the ball all over, super stubborn to the run game. We played the Titans. It's almost like the football gods are trying to hit Roman on the head and say,
Yeah.
hey, look what is winning. It's beating you, dummy. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's my hope.
No, I think that's a good point. I hope that they do that, but we've been hoping that for the past how many weeks, Jimmy? And then
Since week 1.
yeah, and then they come out and they seem to outsmart themselves, well, they know we're gonna run it, so let's do this. No, the stubbornness needs to be there, and I think that the Titans definitely showed that you're gonna get 1 or 2 yards a lot of times, but then every now and then you're gonna pop a 21 yarder, and then you're gonna
Yeah.
pop a 15 yarder.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this. This is something that you talked about, and you've been addressing, I think, for the past couple of weeks now, that the concern around our red zone performance offensively and defensively. But let's focus on the defensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah.
How can the Ravens improve it? Because I have some ideas. Let me really quickly before I answer this. One of the things I think is that the problem with me in the red zone is not talent. It's not the guys. I think it's attention to detail and youth. Because I think in the red zone, one false step is like taking 5 in the open field, right?
Mhm.
One hesitation is like hesitating for 3 seconds in the open field because everything, it's everything is on a larger scale because the field is so small. So
Yeah.
I feel like the youth is kind of killing us in some of those big positions. So I think that's one thing. Anyway, what can we do to improve our red zone defense, and how do you think we will perform in the red zone defensively?
Yeah, I think the red zone is going to be key this week. It's going to be absolutely key, and it's been key all year. And I think the reason the Ravens aren't necessarily great at it in the red zone, you have to be excellent against the run. I think that the easiest way to score offensively in the red zone is to be able to run the ball effectively. And the Ravens have not, since the injuries, they have not been great at stopping the run. Certainly in the red zone, have not been great at all. Now, also, I think what impacts and what plays a part is Wink's style of defense. He's a high pressure man coverage style of defense, and that's going to leave opportunities in the red zone for pick plays, for quick plays to the flat, stuff like that. I know a lot of teams are using the pick plays against us. They're very creative, different ways of using it, but you see it, when you see it. You see a pick play, whether it's a receiver helping out, it's a tight end. And I think that's so I think it's a combination of things. I think the inability to effectively stop the run, certainly in the second half, and then the style playing that man defense just gives a lot of opportunity. So it's different than what we saw with Dean Pease, the bend but don't break. Sometimes I'd like to see Wink use some of that, at least sprinkle it in here and there to confuse guys, sprinkle in some of that stuff, because I think that forcing teams to kick field goals, especially teams like the Steelers, I mean, it's going to be key. We were not able to do that against the Titans. Every time they got down there, they're able to score. And conversely, on the Ravens offense, we're not doing so good a job. We're not able to run the ball in the red zone effectively. Lamar Jackson isn't the cheat code that he was in the red zone last season for whatever reason. We haven't developed enough red zone targets through the air outside of Andrews. I think Snead's been our biggest and that's a problem to me. I like Snead, but I think that's a problem. But yeah, I think red zone, that's key, man. You got to be good offensively, and you got to be good defensively in the red zone. It's just bottom line.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're almost asking the opposite of our defense as we are of our offense. Where our offense, I want our defense to be this amoeba type defense that it can change based on the scenario. Like, you want your defense to have an identity, but an ability to play and to be effective in a myriad of ways, right? Mm-hmm. But Wink has shown a stubbornness to his style of defense, right? And he lives and dies by it. And our offense, we're asking them to do that, right? Like, it's just so, but they seem to be, committed to confusing themselves and everyone else every single week, right? Like, they have no identity, where our defense has an identity, but we're asking them maybe to like sprinkle in some nuance there. I think that's interesting. But one of the other things I want to talk to you about is the pass rush. Can we do enough to disrupt the rhythm of Big Ben? That's a concern of mine. Like to know if you're concerned about it.
Yeah, I think he's playing at an extremely high level, so I'm definitely concerned. I thought the Ravens at times did pretty decent at that in their first matchup, but at the end of the day, he was able to lead the Steelers down to score in big moments. Excuse me. And when you just look at the box score after that game, it looks like he had a pretty darn good game as far as efficiency. Now, he went 21 of 32 for 182 yards and the 2 touchdowns. We were able to sack him twice, and he did have a fumble, but the fact that he had the 2 touchdowns and no picks, that alone right there is probably a recipe for success for them. I think if I told you before the game, Jimmy, that Big Ben would have 2 touchdowns, no picks, it's not like 4 touchdowns. It's not going to kill you, but I don't think that's the stat line that's going to be in there for a Ravens win. I think that they need to do a better job at confusing him. I think they need to try and we need to get our hands on the ball. When they do, Chris Carter said it great. If you force Big Ben into that, confusion, if you force him into a bad throw or a mistaken throw, you got to catch the ball. We've seen multiple DBs this year have the ball hit them in the hands, and they're not able to capitalize. So I think you said it actually in the first game, is you have to capitalize on, if there's a ball on the ground, you got to jump on it. And if a ball hits your hands and you're a defender, you got to catch it. So I think that could be a big key in slowing down that passing offense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm going to be really interested to see what we do from a pass rush perspective to Ben, and I'm going to get into that with our big game player predictions and our keys. So stay tuned, teaser. But let's get right into our keys to the game. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to kick it off here, Glenn. I think that we simply put two words: play clean. If we just play clean football, it doesn't have to be. You know what I want to see in this game, Glenn? I want to see People are probably going to kill me for this. I want to see Lamar Jackson first start ever against the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I don't even care if we throw it 10 times and we run it 1,000, right? Like, I just don't want any turnovers.
Yep.
And I don't want penalties. That's it. Just play clean football, right? So, anyway, I think this is a chance for our offense to give back to that magic that was when Lamar and Gus stepped on the scene at the same time. That's what made me fall in love with Lamar and Gus. Like, just watching them attack people from a running perspective, and the fear that they together instilled in defenses, and the way they ran that RPO, the option type plays was just a blast to watch. I'd love to see us get back to that. Just play clean is my offensive key. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's a great one, Jimmy, because like we've said, dominated in almost every statistical category outside of penalties and turnovers. For me, it's be big in big moments, and when I say that, I mean third down, fourth down, and as I just got done speaking, the red zone. I think last season the Ravens were just so great in those big moments. It seemed like every third and short they converted, every fourth and short they seemed to convert. Obviously, they were great in the red zone, but then it's all started with that Titans loss. They were not good in those big moments, had over 500 yards of offense, but not very good in third down, horrible in the fourth down conversion attempts, and not good at punching the ball in. So I think as long as they're good in those three areas, I mean, I guess that's a big key because I'm asking for three. But how often do you have fourth down attempts in a game anyway? Not
Right.
not a ton. So really, it's third down and the red zone. I think if they can be big on certainly on offense, keep moving the chains, keep Big Ben on the sideline, and then capitalize by punching in the end zone and getting touchdowns instead of field goals. I think that'll be the big thing because early into that Titans game, we settled for field goals, and that certainly came back to bite us. If they were able to punch in just one of those and turn it into a touchdown, it's a completely different game. So that's my offensive key. What do you got for defense?
Defense, and I think this is the same one in game one. I think we did a good job against this, getting physical with the receivers, because not just the pass rush and throwing off Ben is important, but I think that because of their style of offense, getting the ball out quick, another way to affect that rhythm would be, getting physical with those receivers at the line. Not very, other than Juju. I guess Claypool's a big guy, but I think we have some areas where we can have a physical advantage. Jimmy's a big dude. Jimmy is if none of you guys have seen Jimmy in real life, he's a big cornerback. I'd argue that he's probably one of the biggest corners, from a height, weight distribution, muscle perspective. I mean, he's a big dude, and Marlon is plenty physical. So disrupt them at the line, get in their face, get up onto their pads, make everything hard for them to throw that rhythm off, and that could then turn into, like you talked about, an interception or two, a tip pass or two, an errant throw, and that's all we need. So I say get physical with their wide receivers. What about you?
Well, my defensive key is the same as my offense. Be big in big moments. I mean, we've seen too often that the Ravens kind of shrink this year in big moments. Don't step up. Don't make the big catch. Don't make the big tackle. So for me, third down, they got to get the Steelers off the field. We cannot have another game in which they're converting plus 50% on third down. I mean, that's going to be a recipe for disaster for us. Last matchup, they were able to dominate time of possession, over 35 minutes to just 24, but they lost the game. And why? Because they weren't big in those big moments. They turned us over. We didn't turn them over enough. So to me, it's just being big in big moments. I want to see that Lamar swag come out on offense, but on defense, I want to see them posing for the camera. I want to see them all lined up, laying down in front. That's what I want to see. I want to see them big in big moments, Jimmy. I think far too often this year we've shrunk in those big games and in big moments. So yeah, I just want to see them be big, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think recognizing what those moments are going into the play, like we talked about before, hopefully, that can happen quickly. And I do think that will happen as these guys continue to grow up as players. But realizing that, these are the plays, these are the moments before the ball is snapped, right? Or
Yep.
or not in film review, right? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like we want it to happen. You're in the huddle talking about it, recognizing it right there. All right. So our big game predictions. We have offensive, defensive player each, and then we'll get into our game predictions. So, Glenn, I'll let you kick this one off here. Why don't you give us your defensive big game prediction, who it is, and what'll happen?
Yeah, my prediction is Deshaun Elliott is going to turn one of these big hits that he's been laying into people into a key fumble. Okay, I think he's going to pop somebody, whether it be Deontay Johnson, maybe a tight end. We saw him lay the absolute wood on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry even commented after the game. He said that he got hit up under his mouth a little bit, but he shook it off. He was able to get back out there. But that's a big boy. So I think if that same hit is delivered to one of the receivers for the Steelers or the running back, we could see that ball come out. Now, and that's my prediction. I think Elliott forces a key fumble in an important moment. What about yours?
Yeah, so defensively, mine's going to be Yannick Ngakoue is going to get 2 sacks on Ben Roethlisberger in this game. I feel like he was getting really close. He was doing work. He was coming off that line quickly against Tannehill, and of course, he had that play that was determined a fumble. So that I just feel like every week he's getting better. He's getting more in rhythm. He's getting to the defense better, and I think this is going to be a big game for him. I think he's going to have 2 sacks. I'm doubling down. I think one of them's going to go for a strip. I think he's gonna get a strip sack, 2 sacks on the game. I think that Yannick Ngakoue is gonna ball out in this game. Let's go offensively. Glenn, who you got for your big game prediction offensively?
This one's gonna make you happy, Jimbo, because Dez Bryant is throwing up the X on Thanksgiving. That's right. He's getting a touchdown. I saw in the red zone last week, Hollywood's still getting an incredible amount of attention, still getting blatantly double teamed. And I saw on that same play, Dez Bryant 1-on-1. He didn't get the target this time, but I think he will on Thanksgiving. I think he gets a shot at a touchdown, and he makes it happen, throws up the X, and further pushes Miles Boykin down on the depth chart. What about your offense?
They were straight disrespecting Dez Bryant in that game. I mean, my goodness. Well, I guess you could say in some sentences they were respecting him by they were playing off so far. But I felt like they were disrespecting him. And it's funny because I thought in my mind, man, maybe the Ravens should go back and watch the game with the commentary from Tony, because Tony gave a perfect 3 or 4 different ways where you can easily get Dez the ball quickly, make him an impactful player. You were talking about in the red zone where Tony was like, look, he runs that slant, you get on the ball early, and he puts his shoulder down, goes right to that defender, and he's in the end zone. Tony obviously has seen Dez do that time and time again. So, man, I would love to see that, because that brings a totally different dimension to our game. Totally different.
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely. And also the confidence he would bring. Imagine him getting up, throwing up the X. He'd get the whole team pumped up.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I put out a tweet. You guys can go back and look at it. I've just started to do this, like 3 or 4 positive or bright spots from after each game. And one of them was that Dez Bryant is just a dog. He's such a competitor. I love to see it. He's not scared of anyone. He's not scared of any moment. He wants the ball. And just that mentality hopefully will trickle down to a guy like Marquise, who's no longer Hollywood till he deserves that nickname.
That's right.
But Marquise Brown. Yeah, and all the other guys. I mean, all of them. Dez is a dog, and I hope he gets more. So I hope you're right. Mine, though, you already know where I'm going.
It's an easy one.
Yeah, Gus Edwards is running for 80 plus.
I'm not happy with 80 plus, Jimmy. That is
2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like the 2 touchdowns, but Jimmy, 80? That's nothing for Gus getting 20 carries.
You're right. All right. 90 plus.
Oh, you didn't go to 100?
See, now you're gonna make me.
I'm calling Gus, man.
I'm his fan number 1. Look, I'm officially changing it to 100 plus. You're right. I gotta go all in on my boy. The only reason I said 80 plus initially was because they're an incredible defense.
They are. But didn't we just run for 268?
We did. So 100 plus, Gus
All right.
Edwards is going to rip their faces off. 2 touchdowns, Gus. Tell the Steelers fans, the Steelers Nation, to sit down on Thanksgiving. Let's go. All right. So who's winning this game, Glenn? What's your score?
Well, my prediction is that the Ravens will force field goals and not touchdowns, and that will lead to a Ravens win 24-16. I think the Steelers are stymied in the red zone and forced to kick 3 field goals, actually 4, and they miss 1. And the Ravens, on the other hand, get back to their identity. They destroy them on the ground, and they play a cleaner game. 24-16 Ravens.
Wow, I love it, man. If we hold them to 16,
that's right.
I think I blew out your eardrum on that last soapbox. But no, I have in all caps the Ravens winning this football game, 27-24. Justin Tucker putting it away at the end of the game like we know he can do. I think that, like you said, I mean, if you take Gus's 2 touchdowns and then you throw 2 field goals from Justin in there and then a touchdown to Dez, this game is over. Put it to bed. I think that our lives are on, not just our we still have an opportunity, but our pride is on the line. Yeah. Our toughness is on the line. Our competitive spirit is on the line. John Harbaugh is an alpha, and he will accept nothing less than 150% effort. And I tell you what, the Ravens are going to be running around trying to take people's heads off. The only thing I hope is that Elliott's play is a key fumble, not a key penalty.
Yeah, we don't want to see a crown of the helmet penalty. Yeah, I thought he led with the helmet out, and I think they were fortunate they didn't get the call. But yeah, I think the Ravens get and think about what it would do for the confidence for the team, for each individual player. If they're able to beat the undefeated number 1 overall seed currently, Pittsburgh Steelers, what that would do going into future big games. I mean, the confidence that they would gain from this game, especially if they play well and do it in a fairly dominant fashion, it could really propel them into that. This could be that moment that Evan Washburn talked about, that shift, that big key moment that propels them into the postseason. Because I think every Ravens fan, if they're old enough to remember, there was a point in that last championship run for the Ravens, it didn't feel like they had a chance.
No.
So yeah, a big shift, and I think this could be the game that we see this season.
Is it fair to say that this could be Lamar Jackson's biggest regular season game of his career, based on what our record is, based on all, the matchup that it is Steelers Ravens? It's Thanksgiving prime time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt when you consider that he's starting to get this stigma, or the Ravens are starting under, since him, that they're getting the stigma of that they don't play well in big games. This could do a lot to change that opinion.
All right. So Josh, go out there, give Lamar the pep talk of his life. If you need help, give me a call and let's do this.
Yelling through his teeth over here. Jeez. Yeah, absolutely. And let us know your guys' prediction. What do you think will happen? Obviously, still a lot of unknown with the COVID situation, and we'll keep updating you as the news comes out to us. But yeah, let us know your score prediction. Who's your big game performer? Let us know what happens, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.
See ya.